Hi everyone, it's May, it's nice outside, and the garden is so much greener than it was in the April garden tour. I am so excited. I feel like right now it's the calm before the garden storm where I'm just going to start tossing everything into my raised beds. So this is the May garden tour. I can't believe we're here. This year is flying by, but I'm so excited that we are. So May is definitely the busiest month for me in Chicago, Zone 6A, because our last frost date, usually we like to use Mother's Day. It has been a little bit warmer, but I still think I'm gonna wait until like the second or third week of May to get a lot of my plants out just to be safe. So as a quick refresher, if this is your first time here, I garden on 2 rooftop decks in Chicago. I'm currently on the west facing deck, and then we also have an east facing deck. Both decks get full sun. There are very minimal spots that get like part shade, full shade, but that's mostly because they're just covered by something else on the deck. And did I say they were 3 stories up? I think I did, but those are my gardens. So every month, and I think I've been doing this now since 2021, or maybe 2022, I'm not sure, but I do monthly garden tours to show you what things are looking like right now. And this is definitely the one where I'm most excited and like, oh, it's actually garden season. Like it is here. It is time. So let me show you what my gardens are looking like at the beginning of May. Giving you a quick scan of the deck from where I come out onto the deck from our house. So here in my largest of the raised beds are still perennials that I planted in the fall. Well, perennials I planted in the fall, poppy seeds that I threw out in the middle of winter because I had an urge to garden and then forgot that I did that. So at some point in a few weeks, I need to get my zinnias out here because this raised bed is where I grow my zinnias. I think I'm going to do the Queen Lime series in this bed this year. So I planted Rudbeckia, Echinacea in the fall just to get some fall color. I'm going to dig up and transplant all the ones that sprouted because I wanted to make sure they actually came back before digging them up and planting them somewhere else. For example, this one does not appear to have survived the winter, whereas most of the rest, I mean, this one obviously has, this one, I see little sprouts on there. Don't really see sprouts on that, and it feels, I don't know, kind of like it rotted. But the ones that are coming back, I am going to transplant. The poppies I will leave here, although some of them are pretty densely planted, again, because I just threw the seeds into the bed. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with those yet. They're not getting transplanted. They'll bloom here, but I'm probably going to have to remove some once I get my zinnias out. I also have a random pansy that survived the winter that I can pull out of here. Any pansies you see on this deck, they were planted in the fall. So I didn't actually plant any this spring. And if the winters are mild enough, they can come back. But we'll get to that bed in just a second. Heading around to the left first, I have my herbs out and pretty much they've been staying out now. All of these I got from a garden center, but I did want to show off. So this stand is from Gardener Supply. I believe it's out of stock. It's been out of stock for a while, but I really like the staircase step because it allows my herbs to grow up. I had something that didn't have like complete clearance above, so I really like how this works for my herbs. I grow them all in 8-inch terracotta pots just because I like the look of it. So here's where we're at right now. This is not all of the herbs that I'm going to be growing, but it is the majority that I have potted up so far. So let's go through these quickly. I will have a whole video once I get the rest of my herbs setting up this whole section with the irrigation and whatnot, but I have garlic chives right here. I have the oregano, Greek oregano here, my chocolate mint, again, my must-have #1 herb in the garden. I have leeks, which are looking a little rough from some of the wind, but I'm hoping they will come back. Actually, let's get you out of there. I have lemon balm. I have parsley. I have the basil mint, which I just got and I love. Pineapple sage. The strawberry mint, which I'm also excited for and just realized I haven't eaten a leaf, I don't think, so I need to do that. And then my apple mint. So again, I have more fruit mints coming. I have some more herbs over there I still need to pot up. But I ran out of terracotta pots, so I need to get some more of those. On my table and chairs, which I got from Wayfair, I don't take the best care. I mean, I do cover them over the winter, but like there's rust. One of the chairs, the seat is breaking, but I really like them. But those are from Wayfair years ago. Out here hardening off, I have 2 of the champagne hollyhocks my cucumber and my zucchini plants. Again, my plan, we'll see how this works out, is to only plant one cucumber and one zucchini, but sometimes I can't bear to let things go. So we'll see how many I actually do end up planting. This is a bucket I use because I have, I was going to show you my garbage can, and there's a giant pile of pigeon poop right next to it. Yeah, talking about you. They are no longer afraid of me at all. I'll get back to them in a second, but I have my garbage can over here that basically anything I can't compost, I put in there. So I only have a garbage can out here, which means this is normally on the back deck, and I'll carry anything over here through the house because that's how you get from one deck to the other in this container. Behind it, I just have a grow bag on a wheeled platform that I will be potting up, an aqua pot, self-watering pot I will be potting up. And then over here is my, what is right now filled with radishes and lettuce, what will be filled with gomphrena. And I've just not had the best spring seasons the last 2 years. I sowed 3 rows of radishes. There's really only some that came up, and I sowed them back in February, so they've had a lot of time. But I've sown 3 rows. Let's harvest you because you actually look like, at least you look pretty. Only 1 row came up. I'll tell you why in just a second. And the weather's so erratic now in the spring that it's like we get bursts of heat, then bursts of cold, then bursts of heat, and it just kind of throws everything off. Oh, and then the one plant that came back, but I don't know what this is. So again, if you have any idea what this might be, let me know. So the reason I don't think a lot of my radishes germinated is because of birds. So I've been gardening here since 2020. I've never really had an issue with birds destroying any of my plants. In fact, I used to grow blueberries before I kept losing them to blight, and I never had to net my berry bushes or anything. The birds didn't come and steal my berries. There were always plenty for me. Well, then I saw one of the pigeons that's no longer afraid of me, and I think I have this video. If I do, I'll put it in here. It was with its friend, and it jumped in here and just started pecking at my radishes. And I was like, oh, that makes sense why not a lot of them are coming up. But even with that, I still just feel like the spring seasons here, like I said, we don't have a consistently long enough period of those cool temperatures to have my plants really thrive. And it's just kind of bumming me out. So let me know how your cool seasons have been. It's much better in the fall. I feel like we have more consistently cool temps at the end of the growing season than at the beginning. And that's why I started my radishes in February this year, because last year we had a kind of a similar thing where I started them at the normal time, but we got to like 70s and 80s so quickly that there wasn't really enough time for the radishes to form. And then I started them earlier this year in February, and they still are just not doing great, even the ones that the birds haven't taken. So yeah, let me know how your cool seasons have been. It's just, I'm hoping we have better seasons in the future, because I'll still plant, because it's not like I'm not going to plant. Coming over here then, I have my 2 raspberry bushes, 1, 2. One of those I propagated from the other, so 2 for the price of 1. And also those and the rhubarb I leave outside all winter, don't do anything, and they come back. So that is fantastic, because that is not true for most of the plants. But those 2 are looking great. This one rhubarb plant is looking great. This is the furthest along it's ever been at the beginning of May. There's another one back there that hasn't come up that we'll get to in just a second. And then I have a pot of strawberries here that I left outside and are coming back. And then 3 grow bags, which are empty right now, and will have my tomatoes and some giant zinnias in them. Heading back over here then. So this raised bed, the original plan was to plant natives in it. I somehow have lilies coming up. There are plants growing out of the cracks, which I actually find kind of sweet. But I don't have a ton of germination. Now, I did mention before in, maybe it was the last garden tour, that there were also birds pecking in here. Or no, I didn't see them pecking, but it looked like there were holes. And now that I've seen that, I think they might have eaten the native seeds or sprouts that I sowed in the fall. I don't know. We do have some flowers coming up, but I feel like I also winter through some seeds in here. So I don't know, we'll see what comes of this bed, but I'll probably add some annuals to this one, maybe some zinnias. This stand with the grow bag on it, well, the stand goes over in my herb rack. The grow bag, I actually think I am going to get rid of it. So it works great, but I'm going away from the beige color. I thought I would like having beige bags, and I do, but you can see they show all of the dirt. Actually, I don't really mind. It's kind of like an ombre brown. I don't know. We'll see if I use it again or not this year, but there's nothing in it right now. This is my other rhubarb, and again, I planted these in 2020. It came back every year. Now, I was actually planning to, oh, you know what? I might feel something coming up right there. Okay, maybe I'll give that a little bit more time, but I actually was going to empty it out because I mostly grew rhubarb because it reminded me of my grandpa, and I don't eat a ton of it. And again, with limited space, I might use that pot for something else. Then I have a bunch of other stuff that I brought out, including my dahlias. So these I pre-sprouted in April. I think at this point I have 9 of the 12, and it's been under 4 weeks since I planted them. 9 of the 12 have sprouted, which is fantastic. So this one, Lilac Thyme, Fairway Spur. Which one are you? Penhill Watermelon. Other Penhill Watermelon. Thomas A. Edison. And what are you? The other Thomas A. Edison. Now, if you get impatient, like I do, you can kind of like gently push away the soil and see if you find anything. I haven't seen anything from this yet, but it's still too early for me to get super stressed and worried about it. Now, behind the dahlias, I have the 2 plants I started in February for the Me TV appearance. While it has been nice to have a zinnia blooming already, I mean, this plant looks haggard. It was in a way too small container for way too long. I wasn't really taking care of it, so I'm not allowing myself to keep that in the garden. I might allow myself to keep this cantaloupe. I'm not sure yet, though. In this bed here, I have, oh, these are so pretty, but all of these pansies came back from the fall. I will be pulling them when I plant. I don't know exactly what I'm going to plant in here other than my sunflowers, which I always do. Those are the stalks from last year. In fact, is that a sunflower coming up? I think that's a sunflower coming up in the bed. I might have a volunteer, which is exciting. Anyway, these are going to be pulled. My peas, again, they've been growing so slowly. Hopefully I get some peas before I pull those as well for my warm season flowers. There will definitely be flowers in this bed. Over here I have 2 fruit trees. I have, forgot what this one is, the Honey Babe Miniature Peach from Stark Bros, a Chicago Hardy Fig, also from Stark Bros. Stark Bros is where I got my original raspberry as well in 2020 or 2021. Now, these are still in nursery containers because I don't think they're going to go on this deck. I also don't think they're going to go on the back deck. I think they're going to go somewhere else. And then the last things that are growing out here are the other herbs I need to pot up. So rosemary, regular thyme, and lemon thyme. And then I've been using the 0G flex hoses, which are recommended. Flexible hoses I have found for my deck work the best because there's a lot of obstacles I have to get around. I'm in a small space with a lot of pots, so I've been loving this. I still need to get my irrigation hooked up. I will show you that process when we get there. I have the other aqua pot right here. And then, oh, I almost forgot. Over here, I did put up my morning glory because I needed to get it outside. It was climbing up everything, and I think temperatures are good enough, and you can see it's already climbing up the cage. So I've done this the last 2 years now, but basically I trail it up here. It climbs across the top of this flower cart, which I got from Steel Ironwork. I forget the name of it. It'll be linked down below, but I use this to hold, like, as a pretty, I mean, it doesn't look that pretty right now, but as something pretty to hold all my gardening equipment out here. Most of this will be out on the deck somewhere once everything's in place. And then I also do put some pots on this as well, but I really love having the morning glory vines growing on top of this. So that is the front deck, the west facing deck. Now we will head out to the east deck, which I think actually has maybe even more things growing on it, although now that I'm looking out here, there's quite a bit out here too. So here is the east facing deck. Definitely my favorite view, and I've been gardening on the front deck since 2020. I just took this over last year. So I got the raised beds last year. Everything will be linked down below. I maybe had some like overflow plants here last year, but it's it's part of my garden now. So first of all, I have all of my seedlings out here. This is what's going to be planted up throughout the month of May into the raised beds, into grow bags. I'm so excited. I have over here my gomphrena. This is the tallest my gomphrena has ever been. I started it March 1st, which is the earliest I've ever started it. So it's already about 8 weeks along. That's done great. This is mostly my asters. Again, not great germination on the older asters. Really good germination on the seeds I just got for this season. They're looking a little yellow over here. I think I need to hit this with some fertilizer on the next water. Here I have some of my status. I have one more morning glory if I need it. I have my tomatoes, my cosmos, another whole tray of gomphrena. I have way too much gomphrena, but luckily people are always willing to take free plants. So they always go to a good home. And then I have my 2 trays of zinnias there. So those are all my seeds. They're just out here hardening off. They're probably good to stay out here now, but I still don't trust the birds to leave them out here unattended overnight. In this pot behind my seedlings, I just got this a couple days ago, but this is the Valentina white begonia. I just think it's so pretty. It's mostly white with yellow centers and then a hint of like a corally pink on the edges. It is it say part sun and shade? Yeah, part sun to shade, which again, this is full sun, but my begonias handled sun out here. But begonias and impatiens are what I plant the most in the parkway down front or my front pots where I need part shade or shade. Let me show you something exciting. So, well, hydrangea, definitely dead. All the branches, brown inside. But look at my rose. It's not dead. I thought it was dead last tour. So here is what happened with the rose. I stored it in the garage over winter. It dropped all of its leaves from last season. It put out a bunch of new leaves for this season, and then overnight, all of those leaves fell off. So, new round of leaves, all gone. I thought it was dead. And a lot of people said because I did a scratch test, the stems were still green, you know, leave it, see what happens, and it's leafing out. Now there are some branches that don't look great, so I'll prune those out in a little bit, but I kind of just wanted to leave it and see what happens, see where it leaves out, and then I will cut back anything that I think is dead. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited that is not dead. Now, coming over this way, something else that doesn't look great are my 2 holly trees. And you can see here, all the leaves are brown. Break into that song now. So basically, I got the trees last fall for $20 each. They're zone 5, which if you're overwintering in a container, you should really go 2 zones lower, which would be a 4A for me. And to feel really safe, I'll go to zone 3. But I got these saying that, okay, they're only $20 each. If they die, I won't be sad. Well, I do feel sad, but not as sad as if they cost $100 each. However, they did survive winter, and that's how I know that what kills most of my plants or rots my bulbs over winter is the rain, because it survived winter. It flushed out some new buds that were swelling and ready to push out leaves. And then we got so much rain and it stayed so cold for so long with constant rain that I think the soil just held on to that moisture for too long. And I think the roots are rotting. I'm assuming that's what's happening with this because it was not cold when it started to die. Like it was like maybe 40s and rainy, but it wasn't during the winter. Survived winter fine. However, I have done a scratch test, but now I'm thinking that it's just like slowly dying from the tips. Let me turn this back around. So like I've scratched in some of these before, and like the center right there is green and you go up and it's just brown and kind of getting wrinkly. So I think I'm gonna have to replace this unless anyone tells me I should keep it and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's not looking great right now. Now I also planted a ton of bulbs in my raised beds, and I tried to tarp them through winter. Again, it worked over winter to keep the moisture out, but you can see there's not many bulbs in here at all, because once the bulbs started to grow, like these wild tulips were one of the first ones to grow, those were hitting the tarp had to come off. So I might look for some sort of like, I don't know, greenhouse cover type solution, something that's going to stay off the bed so that the tulips can grow. Or I might just buy pre-sprouted tulips in the spring and not feel bad about continuously rotting my bulbs. I did throw in some pansies to make myself feel better, and these make me exceptionally happy to look at. I'm also going to harvest some of these to press, but Yeah, rotting bulbs has definitely been an issue for me. And again, survives winter, so it's not the cold. They start to sprout, and then the rain kills them. In here are the Proven Winners bulbs that I planted. We have the dahlia sprouting in that one. Nothing sprouting yet in this one. Fingers crossed that happens soon. I have one of my 2 columnar apple trees. There's 1. There's 2. You need 2 to cross-pollinate, except this one bloomed about a month before this one, which is now flowering. So they did not cross-pollinate with each other, but that's okay. They're still small, so I think like technically when they're still this small, you're supposed to wait until they get larger for them to actually fruit. But now I'm worried, are they ever going to bloom at the same time? Someone did recommend freezing pollen, like gathering it yourself from this one and freezing it and then hand pollinating. So we'll see if that happens, but I really want these apple trees to actually make apples at some point. Down here I have my hydrangea collection, so 2 hydrangeas here. I have a peony that's coming up. I don't know if I'll have to use a cage or anything for it this first year. And then I'm hoping I can store them somewhere where they won't rot over winter. I also popped just a couple begonias in there because I wanted to. Over here, I have alliums coming up, which is exciting. So these bulbs did not rot, thankfully, here and here. Those should be some beautiful purple blooms very soon. My Virginia, this is Peppermint Patty. I've been in love with this. This I overwintered in the garage also. It's just stunning. It only flowers, well, it's only going to flower for a little bit longer in spring, and then it's just the leaves, but this has made me so happy over winter, and it's been flowering probably for about a month. The bed behind looks full, but that's because I filled it after some of the bulbs rotted. So anything that's a snapdragon, pansy, what else did I toss in here? I think I tossed in some ranunculus. I added those myself. But at least I got some of these strawberry cream tulips. There were Chinatown tulips I was so excited for that I think that's one of them. And it still feels tight in there, but it doesn't seem like it's going to bloom anytime soon. So these beds I will probably empty out relatively soon and get them replanted with my warm season annuals. I have 2 more of my shower dahlias, another lilac thyme, and another fairway spur, more hydrangeas, and all of these hydrangeas except for one. I'll do a whole in-depth hydrangea tour once I figure out where I'm getting these set up. But all of these except for one, I think, stay between 2 to 3 feet, whereas one of them is like 5 to 6 feet. And I got to figure out which one that is. But some of them are like just barely leafing out. Some of them are leafing out a lot. Some that are already flowering. That one is just getting its buds. Do you have a name? No, you don't. So I've also got to figure out what you are. And then another peony. And same thing in here. Although I did have some luck with, I guess, the muscari coming up. But wild tulips did fine. Not a lot of other stuff did great. And then another dying holly tree. Although this one, the stems look, well, no. I was going to say a little more green than brown, but nah, it's not great. I need to take these out. Now, coming over to this corner, just an empty pot for now that I need to plant in. Here's another tree that I have. This is my beach plum. First year overwintering it, and I think it is down to a zone 4. Now, I'm trying so hard to be patient. Like, the stems themselves look great. There are buds on the stems. If this focuses on them, I don't know if it will, but there are buds on the stems. I did Google to see if I'm just being impatient. And the very first result said that this starts to flower in mid-May. And it's one of the last stone fruit trees to flower. And I was like, yes, fantastic. And then the result right below it said they flower in early spring, which mid-May is not early spring. So scratch test, I've done a couple. It's green. I'm trying to scratch the whole thing to make sure that it's alive. But looking at it, it looks like it's healthy. It just hasn't leafed out yet. So I'm hoping that's the case because I really enjoy having it. You do need 2 in order for them to cross-pollinate, which I was told you only need 1 when I bought it. But I think I'm just going to stick with 1 because I got it more for how it looks as a tree or a bush than how it would actually produce beach plums for me. So that's how that looks. And then here we have Nanette. who has been emptied out of most of her spring flowers except for the violas, because look how pretty. I couldn't bring myself to remove these yet. But I had tulips in here, I had ranunculus, what else did I have? A hyacinth in here. So those I pulled. We're going to be planting in here soon. I already put in gomphrena because I had an urge to, and I just wanted to see what would happen. I think this is a white one and then carmine. So I think I'm going to do like 3 gomphrena, 3 zinnias, and then some petunias spilling over. And at first I was trying to be careful of like thinking, where would I want the white gomphrena? I need to plant it in the right pot. But because these pots can be moved, I can plant things where I want them now. And if I realize I want to reorganize them, I can do that. I also threw back here 2 more of the morning glories that I grew here in the same position last year to trail up the trellises here. And then over here, just the non-pretty part, I have another hose. I still need to set up my irrigation, more pots that I'm going to plant up, soil, all of that over in this section. But here's a sweep again of the back deck. So some things are dead, but more things are alive, and that is my goal. So yeah, I am so excited that it is like really in the thick of gardening season now. Like I said, it'll probably be another week or 2 before I start emptying out and putting my plants out just to be safe. Overnight, I usually like to stay like above 50 degrees at night for most of my warm season annuals, because in containers, although they heat up faster, they also cool down faster because it's just a lower volume of soil. So I don't want to put things out here and then have the soil temperatures drop too much. So yeah, 50 degrees is kind of my cutoff for most on warm season annuals. For things like tomatoes or my peppers or my basil, I might wait till it's like 55 pushing 60, and then we'll see what happens. Because I remember 3 years ago, I was out here covering up my peppers at the end of May, early June, because the temperatures drop. So you never really know what's going to happen. But for the most part, planting out around this time usually works just fine. So I'll keep you updated. Let me know if you have any questions on my garden, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, also, well, 1, I'll link down all the past monthly tours, but 2, I can already tell this is probably going to be long and not even everything is planted. So I think going forward, I'll be doing a separate tour of the front deck and then a separate video for a tour of the back deck. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Now you're waiting for me to leave so you can eat some seedlings and poop on the deck. You can't fool me.